Hey, welcome back to Promise Plenty Flesh and Blood show with me, Keith, and Nate over there. How you doing, Nate?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing all right. I don't know if you heard, but Dynasty released this weekend. It's a pretty
Yes, I
big.
heard.
It's been pretty fun to watch. Everybody's doing their box openings. YouTube flooded with content. Everybody's putting up live streams, getting it going, and this is probably the most fun time for a card game. You know, new cards in people's hands. It's fun to watch. How much Dynasty have you opened?
So I'm usually a buy singles kind of person, but I actually did want to open one this time just for fun. Support the local LGS. So
Hmm.
it was one box for me, but I was pretty satisfied by it. I got quite a few good commons and rares and stuff that will be useful. So I got a CF Crouching Tiger, which actually looks really cool.
Oh yeah, let me see
Um,
that marvelous tiger.
Yeah, I think this is probably the best hit that I've ever gotten.
It man, the art is really cool. I mean, the regular art is pretty cool too, but the cold foiling on that is wow. That's pretty awesome.
The foiling is really nice. There's a lot of really nice details, and it's got something in the cold foiling that I don't know that I've seen before, so it probably won't come over very well on the camera, but you can see there's like leaves and stuff on the edges.
Oh, okay. So they got the spot foiling going too.
Well, no, it's not just spot foiling. The leaves almost have like a mottled texture, like almost like a textured cold foiling, which I don't think I've really seen before, but it looks really cool.
You know what?
So,
That is what I couldn't put my finger on with that. It's like a 3D. It really does make it pop
yeah,
and look a lot
it's
better. Yeah.
crazy. There's a couple of foils that I opened that I felt that way about. Some of the Ranger ones, like the landscape ones, they pop pretty nicely too.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty excited to start collecting the rainbow foils of this set.
They've come a long way. I was going through a lot of WTR Arc Crew foils over this past week, and there are many that is just so subtle you can't even tell the card is foiled. Sometimes, like it's just like on Ravenous Rabble, it's like just the eyes of the of the art.
Yeah, some of the older ones were pretty subtle. I do think some of the older ones were pretty good too, though. I think one of my favorite foils, I don't know if you've seen it, but Increase the Tension from
Hmm.
Crucible. It's a picture of like a giant crossbow shooting at a monster, and it's like a night scene, and it's got a bunch of little houses. So in the foil of that one, the fires and all the little houses on the side are all just like spot foiled. So that one is really cool. It's subtle, but it still looks really cool because it
Yeah,
has that dark feeling to it.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
that,
Ever since Tails, it's definitely been. I mean, Monarch has a lot of good light ones. The shadow ones end up being pretty dark. But Tails, probably the elemental ones were probably
yeah.
the best. They really hit with those reds and
I,
yellows.
I, I don't know if you've seen Dissipation Shield too. That's another good one from Arcane Rising. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess the different printers do it a little differently. So that's probably some of it too. Like they got on their
I don't
game
know
now.
much about that. I don't.
So they did reprints in Japan versus from Cartamundi in Belgium, and the Japan ones I believe are I may have got it backwards, but one of the printers the foiling is less foiling. It's just not as bright, not as sharp. So that's one of the issues where if you get the original Belgium printing, I believe it is, your foils are brighter, better, and so you'll
Oh,
get people arguing over like, hey, I want to buy your foil bulk, but can you tell me was it a Japan print, was it a Belgian print? And some people care about that and value it a little bit differently.
I'd be curious to know how you would even tell.
The only way to tell is before the boxes are opened,
Oh gosh.
on the case. So the cases say where it was printed and whether Japan or Belgium. But once that's open, I don't think there's any way to tell.
I'd be like, sure, let me run to the local recycling center and I'll check for you really quick.
Yeah, if you hold up the two foils next to each other, you can tell the difference. And this comes up actually a lot for people trying to spot fakes, where they'll be like, "Wow, this legendary or the fable, I think even the for the Eye of Ophidia and the Arcanite Shard look a little bit different based on the printer." So yeah, it's actually caused a problem for some people who are into that side
Interesting.
of things.
So
But it's
people
mostly
like
with the unlimited, not the more expensive stuff.
the first edition.
Yeah, yeah. So I, on the other hand, have opened no Dynasty so far. I know it just came out yesterday, and I'm really questioning whether or not I'm going to open any initially. Um, when Everfest came out, I think I opened probably 50 boxes right away, and it got burned. Man, I got burned. I did not open a single Fable. I opened only one Bravo at the time, which in the beginning was good because it was like a $250 card. Now that double sided Bravo is probably only like $50 or less. Um,
Hopefully you sold it when it was 250.
yeah, 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 yeah. Got it graded too. I think it was like a 9. I'm trying to remember, but anyway, that was a while ago now. But I'm definitely rethinking how I do these things, because from a player perspective, you want to open packs, you want to get cool cards. But if you're looking at it strictly from a value perspective, like, does it feel good to open a box and get, there are boxes you don't even get a cold foil, or if you do, it's a $2 common equipment, and that's the best card you got. And the experience is really all over the place for people. And if you're trying to approach the game casually, buying singles definitely the way to go. Get the cards you need, but don't buy them right now. That's another thing
Yeah.
about when a game launches. There's a flood of product that does get listed, that does come out, but in the first few days, everybody's trying to squeak out the highest price they can for stuff, and you can just wait a week, and
I feel like there's a little subtlety to that though, because if you can identify what are going to be the chase majestics, like what
mhm,
are going to be the staples, then you might actually be able to pick those up cheaper than if you were to wait until the prices come down, quote unquote.
mhm. Well, that's
So
a that's
I
another
have
interesting thing about this particular release with Dynasty, where they have added the marvels to a lot of the key cards. So if you don't mind not having the most expensive card, like the Marvel Ally Angel for Prism, if you don't need the Marvel cold foil, you can get the cheaper Rainbow foil one. And when they add these chase cards, it definitely creates a divergence for the pricing on these things. And I like when they do that. That there's cards for the collectors that can be rare and overly expensive for the people who have money to burn. But then the cards that you want to play with, they get cheaper because they don't need those cards. No one's chasing after those particularly.
Yeah, I as more of a player myself, I really like this newer model, just because it soaks more of the box EV onto those like marbles and alt art stuff. And me, I like foils, but I just like the shininess, so
Hmm.
I'm fine with the normal rainbow foil. It doesn't have to be like the full the Marvel version. So this is a perfect setup for me personally.
Yeah. So that brings up the controversial topic of the fable of this set. And here I'm gonna switch.
Is it controversial? I don't.
I think it is a little bit initially. I think people have calmed down, and that's probably the one of the topics. All right, I've got it pulled up on TCG Player, and that's another thing related to this stuff. The prices some of these marvels are going for. Right now, the cheapest Fable on TCG Player is $457. There have been sales, it looks like, for 450, 465. Only three sold so far, but they were around 450. So it looks like that's kind of the floor that the market has, at least for this opening weekend.
So honestly, I'm a little surprised it's that low. I thought for sure this one was going to be $500. That was
Yep.
just kind of my. As soon as I saw it, I thought to myself, that's a $500 card. Just
Yeah. Yep. They took a card that already exists, if you didn't know that. Command and Conquer, one of the most expensive Majestics, the most expensive Majestic
it is
in the
it's
whole
the most.
game. The cheapest ones right now are the white border one. I think it's around $60, $65. And a lot of decks run three of them, two or three of them. So that's a pretty big investment if you want to be competitive. And for Dynasty, they decided, hey, let's do a reprint for the most in demand, highest price card, but let's make it a crazy fable. Alt art cold foil. And so it's really I can see both sides of the debate. People wanted Command and Conquer to be a reprint to lower that entry cost for competitive decks, but instead of making a more affordable print, they just added a more expensive one on top, which can have the effect of lowering the cost of the other cards. If your big money people want to switch them out to these three instead of the others, then the rest of the market can come down. But I don't know.
Yeah, I doubt that it's going to have a huge impact on the price of the unlimited version. Um, I can definitely see how it's controversial too. A lot of people wanted kind of a unique effect. People liked the gems and the locations, and we haven't seen those in anything besides Fables yet.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think that was part of the controversy too. Personally, I really like that they didn't do a new unique effect in the Fable because it's either gonna be not really playable, right? Like we saw in the Uprising one. It's not
Or
really
Corsham.
playable right now.
Yeah.
Or Corsham, yeah, Corsham might be playable. Like I don't know. Maybe there's a meme deck that plays Corsham. I think it's Corsham is more playable than the Uprising one. The
Blood of
whatever the
Drakai. Yeah.
Drakai, yeah. I actually have one of those just because it was like it is
The
ridiculously cheap.
the
I was
rainbow
like,
foil is like $50 now.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I bought one because I feel like you can't go wrong with a Fable for $50. But like Heart of All, I have one of those too. I actually bought it a little ways back. I love that card. I think it's one of the best cards in the game. I don't like that it's only printed at Fable. We shouldn't, in my opinion, we shouldn't have cards that are very strong printed at the Fable rarity.
Yeah.
So I
I
really
have
like
that
this card.
card pulled up right now on TCG Player, and you can see the price graph from September when it was down to about 175, 160. It was pretty low, and then this Icelander deck took off. that uses it, and now the lowest a light plate is 340.
I talk in one of the episodes about how good that card is in Icelander. Like,
Probably. You're always calling the ball before the
no,
umpires
it's
see it.
just I had played around with Icelander, and the thing with Icelander is she starts at a lower health than other heroes. So like automatically right off the bat, you're more likely to have it turned on. The other thing is she likes to play both on her own turn and the opponent's turn.
Hmm.
And so you really need like two blues to pitch in a turn instead of just one, which makes it that much more likely that you're or that much more unlikely that you're going to need to block with it, right? Which obviously you can't because it doesn't have a block value.
Hmm.
So I think it was really more just a question of was Icelander going to be good? It was pretty easy to see that Hart would be good in Icelander, I think. It was just a question of would Icelander be good? And I feel like Michael Hamilton proved that.
Yeah, yeah. I think you know you've seen either. It's been a while since like a purely defensive deck has been top, like Control Katsu a while back, but it's either like super aggressive decks, like we've seen with the Rune Blades that come out, or Phi, or you got to be able to do a control or a hybrid deck that can pivot to handle all these heroes. And Icelander is just like it just surprises people when they're playing against you. Like you're messing up with the icy control cards, the frost bites, and then you turn around and throw 7-8 damage at them, and then oh I actually had a block. What do I?
I think the frostbite is the biggest key because you need to tune your deck to be able to hit the pitch that you need every turn and make sure that you're not giving up too much damage by including too many blues because if you put in too many blues then you're just giving up damage in
Hmm.
every other matchup, right?
Right, you're just
And
too weak.
so
Yeah.
just that single frostbite, you might think that it's only one value because it's only one resource, right? So it's like, one out of your three that a card is worth. But the problem is that it changes your resource breakpoint, right? It may take your turn from a three to a four, and that's pretty awkward because when you go from three to four, that's a whole nother card, right? Thinking about like Dory in particular, where
Right.
she's
It's
got
yeah.
very consistent,
Right.
needs to have three pitch every
Hmm.
single turn. And now all of a sudden it's four, and you just took a whole card. So I
Right.
think
Can't
that's
can't swing that weapon that third time, or even a second
yeah.
time sometimes. Yeah.
And the other crazy thing is that in a lot of ways you can't block Icelander because you in a lot of hands, your deck is tuned to only draw one blue every hand because that's all you usually need. And so if you want to use that blue for your turn, now all of a sudden I can't pitch it to block, right? So it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Those counterplay turns, right? Just getting the damage through, and then you're it's all those physical attacks, and then suddenly you're down to. We saw that with the championship. Like as soon as Michael Hamilton had his opponent down to what, like 7 or 8, the game was over. Because then, oh, by the way, it's a wizard still, so I'll
Yeah.
play on your turn and activate all these
Speaking
equipments.
did we talk about the mirror match that Michael Hamilton played
No,
with
I
the
didn't
the
watch
defense
it. I didn't get to
character?
watch it.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I think that like if you could write a textbook on Fab strategy, that would be like the Thermopylae or like the famous battles of history, you know?
Okay.
So basically what happened is it was a mirror match. It was an Icelander mirror match.
Hmm.
His opponent included some sink below, thinking, this is Michael Hamilton. Of course, he's on the Bulllander Icelander, as people call it, with the attacks, right?
Hmm.
So he was like, I'm gonna side in sink below, just to try to get a little edge in this matchup, a little bit more value out of my blocks, right? So very early in the game, I think it was even only turn one or turn two. Michael Hamilton played the card that lets you see your opponent's hand. Um, I don't remember what it's called. It's an ice card, but you can see your opponent's hand. If they have an action, you can like get rid of it or whatever.
Hmm.
And so he looked at the opponent's hand, saw that it had sink below, and then at the end of that turn, the opponent arsenaled the sink below.
Right.
Okay,
Standard
so
play for a defense reaction, right?
standard play,
Yeah.
but he shouldn't have done it in this
Because he's
case
Icelander.
because he's Icelander and he needs his arsenal.
Yeah.
So so what Michael Hamilton did starting from the next turn is he started blocking with his attacks. He never attacked that entire rest of the game. And so the sink below got stuck in the arsenal of the opponent. So he lost some value. He lost a lot of value
Uh-huh.
by blocking with his attacks, but it ended up winning him the game because he could still play from Arsenal, which is what Icelander wants to do.
Right.
And he was also able he could take literally as long as he wanted to set up his game winning combo to just blow the opponent away and just win the game. So I think it's one of those really classic moments where you recognize an opportunity to kind of go off script and do something totally different and just lock the game.
Wow.
So I thought
Wow.
it was a very cool match. It's something I would highly recommend going back to watch.
All right. Cool. The that was a long rabbit trail because fables are fables. I'm gonna go
Hard to
back.
find out. I
Yeah.
would love to see it. Like even as an owner of a Hard to Find All, I don't sell it because I play it. I love that card. I think, like I said, it's one of the best cards in the game, in my opinion. But I would love to see it reprinted at Majestic because I would like to see other players have the opportunity to play it as well.
All right. All right. Dynasty. Give me your guess on what the most expensive card in the set is right now.
The most, I feel like it has to be either the CNC or the Marvel Emperor, right?
So, definitely the Marvel Emperor, which I'm not even sure. Where's the listing for that? None of them have sold. So I have it sorted by market high. None of those have sold. So I think they're like $2,500 or something.
Oh my, oh, but none have sold.
Yeah,
Oh, there's only three listings. I just
see,
looked it up.
can't type.
That's wild. Yeah, $3,000. I'd be I'd be a little surprised if this sells for that much,
I
or even
think
close to that much.
oh man, there have been some sales in the Discord and on Facebook, and I think it's somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500, something like that. Is probably what you could get. But
That sounds a little more reasonable, but like,
that's expensive, man.
how much is a CF art right now? I'm just curious.
Cold foil hard to find all. Oh, I saw somebody
Oh, that's
selling one
14.
for like 8,000. So they're under 10 now,
Wow.
which they were up at like 20 for a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so beside after the Emperor, what do you think is the you'd expect
Has to be
the
it has to be
CNC, right?
CNC, right? It
Well,
has to
right
be.
now it's the cold foil Marvel Angel, the ally. Yeah, it's actually listed higher than the CNC.
That's wild. I would never have guessed that. Now I need to see how much it is. Do you know, did they announce like what was the relative rarity of those?
They do not announce the rarity of the Marvels. So
I guess
the community is putting a Marvel overall, like your chance of pulling any of the Marvels at like 1 in 2 cases, something like that.
what?
So to get the Emperor or any of the weapon marvels or Soraya is actually extremely rare. Now, the
One
internet,
in two cases for one Marvel,
right?
not like for a specific, but just a
Just a
singular
marvel.
Marvel.
Yeah,
That's wild.
yeah,
I had no idea. That's
yeah.
wild.
So even just pulling like the Rock or any of those other goofy weapon ones is actually really really hard to get.
So like just pulling rock would probably be what, like one in 40 or 50 cases?
Yeah, I
Is
don't
that
know.
right?
I don't know what the how that works out. We need somebody to open like 1,000 boxes and put up the stats.
It's really wild. Yeah, I just looked up rock. It's only like $100 right now. I mean, I say only, but that is a lot.
Yeah, I've got the list of marvels pulled up, and the battle axe is at 89, and that's the cheapest
That
for
doesn't surprise
weapons.
me.
The tiger is actually down to 70. So
That surprises me. I would have
yeah,
thought the tiger would have been up there.
because everybody needs like 10 of them, right? Like if you're gonna run CAT,
You need to have 10.
if you're gonna
If you're
run
gonna run,
yeah CAT Katsu,
you're not allowed to play Katsu, or you're not allowed to call it CAT Katsu unless you have at least 10 Marvel Tigers. We're establishing that rule right now. Speaking of the battle axe, look at how lucky I got on my box.
oh wow,
I got a foil and a non-foil battle axe.
wow, yeah, that's pretty good.
No, it's not.
I mean, not a
I don't
good
know.
card yet, but we'll
I
see.
might experiment with the battle axe actually, but that's a whole other topic. Let's stay on this topic.
Yeah.
So like the Marvel Rock, I was kind of hoping it would go down to like $30 or something like that. Because if it was $30, I think I would buy a Marvel Rock. Because that card is just really cool. I think it's really well designed. I know I've said that before. I'm saying it again because I think it's that cool.
So the TCG player has a thing where they have their market price, right? They don't calculate or list the market price until they reach a threshold of sales. And so far, the rock, the blaster, the shield, there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the marvels have no market data. So that tells me people aren't buying them yet at these prices. So
Yeah,
the
that
prices are
makes
gonna
sense.
have to go down. And you might these marvels. I wouldn't be surprised if these marvels do end up at $50 or less, especially the ones that are less popular.
Yeah.
So again,
I,
opening weekend, these things get flooded in, and people are still opening and figuring out how rare they are.
yeah.
If you are a big fan of these, definitely wait to buy them because unless someone starts winning everything with a certain one, the price is going to keep going down. And
I feel like Rock has some meme energy though.
for sure, for sure. All right, so related to this topic, and I'm pulling up a video here. Another content creator, Bronson. He's always you've watched Bronson, right?
I don't know if I have. Does he have a different name or
No, that's literally his name in the channel.
then the answer is no.
I've linked you his videos before. He focuses mostly on the collection side of the game, and he has a goal of owning 1% of the print run of Alpha and First Edition Arcane Rising.
Oh, I have heard of him. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay,
So he
continue.
goes out and he buys commons and uncommons because he just wants to own, 1% of the print run. That's his goal. And this video he put out this week is channeling a lot of my feelings on how Dynasty has come out right now. And he's suggesting, hey, don't buy any Dynasty right now. Instead, you want to spend money as a collector, go hunt for the rainbow foils from the older sets, find some deals, and that's exactly your other hobby, as I understand it.
Yes.
So explain to me the process of someone who casually wants to be a TCG collector, but doesn't want to spend hundreds of dollars, on product.
I think you just have to set reasonable goals. So, like me, I don't want to collect 1% of the entire print run. I think that's just beyond my kind of financial capability. I think a reasonable goal is, or kind of what I like to do is just have a foil playset of the commons and rares from WTR Alpha.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm going for, and that's still not cheap. That's still not casual. I think, and even more casual, and I also do this, is just get like a rainbow foil playset from new sets as they come out of commons and rares. So I don't do like majestics and legendaries like some people do, but I do like to at least get foils of the commons and rares.
Hmm.
And the reason I do that is because I like to play and I like to play with shiny cards.
Yeah.
So it makes it pretty easy. One thing you can do is see if people that do those the mass box openings are selling bulk foils. Like sometimes people will sell me foils for 10 cents each.
Hmm.
And to me, I think that's a pretty good deal just to kind of get started with your collection and then you can kind of fill in the gaps. Like I never got any foil red sink belows and those bulk foil
Right. They get
stills.
picked over, but if your goal is to just start a collection where you like foils and you want to, have your commoner deck or
Right.
whatever deck foiled out,
Yeah.
then
And then
it gives you a little bit of work to sort through and handle these piles, but the bulk rates can be fairly reasonable. Get a
mhm,
box of a couple hundred bulk cards, find the ones you want, and then you could even flip the extras if you wanted
yeah.
to.
I don't usually just I don't know why.
Yeah.
But then, if you really want to, like I actually do have a playset of foil sink belows just because I use those so often. I like to play more defensive type decks. So I did just buy some foil sink belows. I think they were like $5. Um,
Oh,
and
they
I
came
posted it.
down.
No, no, no. This was a while ago. Hey,
Okay.
I warned you guys. I told you guys that if you wanted your playset of foil sinks, you should buy them at that time.
As soon as History Pack was announced with no foils, then a lot of those prices spiked because they're like, wait a minute, these are never going to come around again. Let's
Well, and that's when I bought my set, and I posted in the local Discord. I said, if you guys want your set of red sinks, you should buy them now.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I
Yep.
still maintain like if you want red sinks, buy them because I don't think they'll ever get reprinted just from
Hmm.
the way things have been going.
Right. Now, the other thing you do, and Bronson in this video mentions it sometimes, the higher rarity cards like Majestics um, aren't good at the moment, at the time. There's no deck that uses them. And so while you have a $70 Command and Conquer as your Majestic, right next to it in the same set, there's a Majestic for 20 cents. And maybe it's not good now, maybe it will become good later. And that's a fun, cheap way to do a little gambling on the future of the game. Just buy a stack of bulk Majestics from somebody, and sometimes you can get those in foil too for pretty cheap.
Yeah, I've done that for a few different things. I also like to do it for rainbow foil commons and rares. So, um, There's a couple that I've got big stacks of rainbow foils of. I think even bigger than that from Everfest, if you recall. That's one of the ones that I have a big stack of. Um, I did that with three of a kind. I bought a whole bunch of three of a kinds for like $2 each, and then I ended up selling a bunch for 20
Yeah. Yeah.
because they skyrocketed. I don't remember if it was when Lexi got announced or something like that, but
Oh yeah,
they
preview season is just the best time if you like playing around with this stuff because they'll show one card and the whole community will be like, "What? Azalea good now?" And like all those
yeah.
cards.
I think my best example of a really long-term, sort of a speculative buy that I made is Chains of Eminence. So that card, even now, is like 30 cents.
Hmm.
And I might actually own 1% of the print run of that card. Like, yeah,
And you know what? That's another side of this too. Is like Welcome to Raid, Arcane Rising, Crucible of War. Those black border cards are out of print. So, they're still cheap. Eventually, supply gets lower and the value goes up because that's like the long tail of these things.
the
As long
Chains of
as
Eminence, did it get reprinted in the white border?
no, that's another thing. In this particular setup, history packs did not reprint every card. So
Yeah.
you have some where even the non-foils from those first few sets, if they took off, the supply is now going down because it's limited. They didn't
The
reprint it.
interesting I don't know if you remember around when Monarch came out, but Chains of Eminence actually went way up once before. It went up to like $10. And the reason is because people thought it might be a possible counter to Chain when he was just taking
Like
over.
take out seeds.
People thought you could take out Seeds of Agony, and people tested it. It was like kind of fine, but I think it just never ended up being good enough to be
Yeah,
worth running.
yeah,
So
yeah. Chains, snag. There were a few cars where it was like, how do we slow this hero down? And none of it worked because you just with chain, you just banished more and then just kept going.
they all, yeah, they all just have their slight issues. One of the things I like to do is try to think of, you've heard about like legacy and vintage for Magic, right?
Hmm.
And those are formats that encompass all the cards from the last 30 years of Magic. And so only the absolutely craziest, most broken stuff is viable in those formats. I'm trying to think, we're 3 years into Fab. What is the Fab legacy format in 27 years going to look like? What are the cards that are going to be really strong?
Hmm.
Uh, and to me, you look at some things in Magic that are strong in Legacy and Vintage. Like, actually, don't even remember. There's a counter spell. A lot of counter spells, like especially free counter spells, are just crazy because those are like 3 turns at the most formats.
Hmm.
To me, Chains of Eminence is that kind of like ace card that it's kind of like a trap card, right? You were talking about Yu-Gi-Oh earlier. Maybe
Hmm.
that was off stream, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay.
But Chains of Eminence, it's just like it's an answer card. I think it's got a really high skill ceiling in terms of knowing like what your opponent's deck wants to do. I just think it's a really cool design card. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
And
another
there's
example.
another thing I pulled up on TCG Player the first 4 sets and I've got them sorted. So I'm looking at Majestics from low to high, and it reminded me that one of the things, the seasonality of Flesh and Blood, is caused by the Living Legend system. And so, like, light cards for Prism or Shadow Runeblade cards for Chain, now that those heroes are unplayable in Constructed, um, their cards, a lot of them have tanked in price. But we know those heroes will get either reprints as the hero themselves, or a different hero will take that slot. So these cards will likely come back to being usable again in the future. So picking them
Maybe
up
it's a good
now,
time to buy.
right, right. I'm looking. Hey, man, Spill Blood is 35 cents. You
That's another one that I have a lot of copies of.
because hey, and now we got an axe, and it might not actually work with this card, but we can see that they continue to add weapons to the game. They continue to create new play styles for these heroes. So when this card becomes good, it'll spike, and it's Monarch is technically out of print there, but there's still a million boxes of it around. But the first edition one, which should be more expensive, is $2. So like, get your play set while you can for $6. And it just goes back to, like, if you believe in the future of the game, if you think it's still going to be around in even just 2 or 3 years, the pool of cards is not that big still compared to other games. It's still a fairly young game. And if there's a certain type of hero you like playing, the siloed nature of the game makes it so, like, hey, if you're always playing Runeblade, you can pick up all the Runeblade cards for pretty cheap. And it'll come back around, they'll add more Runeblades, and there you go. All right. That was a long rant about collecting and all that, and why I will eventually get into Dynasty. The cool thing about Fab 2.0 is the box they sell today that everybody's hyped up over is the same exact box they will sell a year, 2 years from now in the store.
First
So,
edition anymore.
right, without having that first edition unlimited split, there's no need to FOMO into buying these boxes. If you
I
look,
do think there's a middle ground though, right? Especially if you're a player,
you need the cards to play. Yeah.
if you buy 2 or 3 boxes, you're probably going to get the commons and rares that you need. And that's kind of one of the reasons that I decided to kind of go more towards that middle ground with this set is because I needed some of the cards. Some of the commons and rares in
Hmm.
this set are really interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a supplemental, and that's another twist. Um, with Dynasty or with Uprising, if you play Draft and Sealed, you'll get the cards eventually. So you can kind of channel your finances into events and get the things that way. But with a supplemental, it's just a box you can't draft. It's harder to get them out that way. So
Well,
how?
so another thing to keep in mind is like, I'm a Guardian player, I'm a Ranger player, so I didn't need the cards from Dynasty for Armory that weekend.
Mhm.
Or no, I'm sorry, from Uprising. I didn't need them that weekend because those classes weren't in that set. Some of the generics were good. Findall's Fighting Spirit, I think, is the best topper for Phantasms to put in your sideboard, for example. But it's not critical to my game plan. And so I think that's the difference with Dynasty, which is because it's a supplemental set, you're gonna have something in your class that you're probably gonna want,
Mhm.
unless it's Guardian.
But hey, you
Unfortunately,
know what? Wait a little bit. Pick up the singles. You know,
yeah.
and there's a lot of caveats, right? If you have a strong local community, which we do, buy a box, support your LGS, and then trade for the cards you want for the class you like. If you didn't get them, that's a fun part of the social aspect of these things. Being able to just pull more cards into your local community is also, a side benefit of opening boxes.
I thankfully did get the one card that I needed for Armory in my box.
The new best shield in the whole game, right?
Well, no, it's not. It's basically worse stalagmite, but the key is that it's not elemental, right?
Right.
So,
Hey, watch out when you play it against Arachne now. Did you see
oh,
that?
because he can. Well, yeah, but I don't think that matters that much because you really only lose out on one block,
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, it kind of hurts, but it also kind of doesn't. So I don't know. It's interesting. I
Yeah.
think losing stalagmite would hurt a lot more.
Because you're missing the
Or
one block and the frostbite. Yeah.
right. What I think would be really funny is pulling that trick on the mech. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
Dash's
The
mech.
red one. Yeah. What we're talking about, man. I always forget. There's an audience here. We're trying to have an audience. They updated the rules so that Shred applies its minus counters to temper equipment in a way that when the combat chain closes, temper triggers if it puts it to 0 or negative. So if you've got a 2 temper shield and they play blue shred on it, that puts it to 0. And when the combat chain closes, that piece of equipment breaks to temper. That was not expected to be that way.
What who said it wasn't expected? That was how I expected it to be, which is really
Really?
interesting. Yeah.
So the way, let's see, the way I expected the order of operations to be is that that's a temporary -2 on the chain link, and then temper would not factor any of
Well,
that in when the combat
do-
chain closes.
doesn't shreds? It doesn't say. It just says target card gets it, not the like.
Oh well, it
Because
says
remember,
target card defending an assassin attack gets the minus this combat chain. So it's
yeah.
actually really good against the other Guardian Shield because it lasts the whole.
Only the chain though, because remember you can't block again with that shield unless they break the chain, and at that point it will lose its minus debuff.
Right. Okay.
So if it said it gains minus this turn, that would be
That would
pretty
be pretty
wild.
overpowered. Yeah. Yeah. Against
So
that particular one.
I'm glad that they clarified the ruling on this because I'm pretty sure that this makes the Guardian card that buffs the defense. Um, it can make it so it like saves Stalagmite. So, do you know which one I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah. The remove a
Um,
counter or defend higher. There were like 3 or 4 cards that are
yeah.
basically like
So,
if you use your offhand to block, buff it. Yeah.
so there's a card called Withstand, and this is actually, if you recall, this is one of the few of the Guardian cards that I had said was like possibly playable
Yeah.
or possibly good. But so what it does is it says the next time target Guardian offhand defends this turn, it gains +6 defense until the combat chain closes. And so let's say you block with your Stalagmite. It already had a -1 counter, so usually it would blow up, right? But you already played this, so actually it has 7 defense. So when your temper triggers, um, it won't destroy the stalagmite. So you'll have it there with 0 block to be able to block again and give another frostbite.
Oh, I hadn't seen that side of this. Yeah.
Uh,
That
yeah, I mean,
ruling for temper would should apply to this. Yeah.
that's what. So yeah, I haven't heard many people talk about this before, but the wording is exactly the same. It says it gains it until the combat chain closes.
Hmm.
So I have to feel like it works in reverse, right?
Yeah. we'll have to bring our resident L2 judge on the show and throw our random questions at him next
It's
week.
a good idea. But yeah, so I was thinking it would be fun to make a like a withstand stalagmite deck and just see how many times you can give frostbites with stalagmite.
Dude,
But
a blitz guardian that just like take um, an exhaust deck or whatever you call it, fatigue
fatigue.
deck. Yeah, a lot of these cards made a fatigue deck way more possible.
They absolutely did. The problem is the wide deck. So a lot of these cards are really, really bad against Fi.
Right.
And it's going to depend on what your local meta looks like. But usually we get a decent number of people showing up with Fi.
Hmm.
So, I've tried to bring that kind of Guardian deck to Armory before, and it just didn't work. I think I went 1-2 that week. It was pretty bad.
I know you're not gonna get your playset of what is this
Quick, quick,
month?
Quicksilver Dagger.
Oh yeah, it is just a dagger.
It's this. I have it here.
There you go. Yeah,
So I've
so
got
they left out some notable cold foils from the boxes that are likely going to be Armory promos. We see one of them is the dagger already. Um, there's a
probably the Arachne's
yeah,
other dagger, probably.
yeah, as well. It's going to be an Armory probably next month.
So it's really interesting. This is kind of a departure from how they've done things in the past. I don't know if you recall with Monarch, but like Bolton's axes, when they put those as the CF Armory promo, they put both of the mirrored axes in the same Armory box, and so if you won, you actually got two cold foil promos.
Hmm.
So in Dynasty, what they did is they put one of the hands as cold foil in the box,
Hmm.
and the other as the cold foil armory promo, which I don't know. It seems odd. It's different.
Yeah, it is, but supplementals are weird. You saw that with Crucible, where they had the reverse Kadachi was a rare and a foil versus like the regular the non-reverse one. So yeah, it's a little goofy with two-handed weapons. I think I like this style better, although I mean you'll see a divergence of the prices where one version will be one, based on the pull rate from the box. The regular one will be super cheap probably because that's how
I
these.
suspect the armory promo for this one will be very expensive because I don't see it being like taking over warrior decks. I don't know.
Right. The Arachne one probably will be pretty expensive if they do that, because that's people will want to
Yeah,
play
I
that.
would
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Yeah, Arachne seems like a lot of people are interested in. So
All right. Wow. Dynasty is looking pretty fun. I'll eventually open some packs. Make sure to set my paper packs aside for you. Keep the mulch project going. I imagine it's gonna be a spring project now.
it'll be a what project?
Yeah, it's spring 2023.
Oh, it'll probably be like a spring 2027 before I can collect them. We'll see. I think Howard said he was setting all of his wrappers. I think I told you I'm targeting like at least 40 cases of paper packs that I'm gonna need.
Let's see, 40 times 4 times 24. Someone out there can add that up and comment in the video, math. All right, that's a lot. Um,
Well,
are all
I
these
mean,
cards? All the cards are coded in Talishar now.
oh yeah, they're in. They've been in. Where have you been?
You guys are so fast. It's good to remind the viewers some checkpoint things in time, like the set And and also bring it up just as a compliment. Like the set has been only out and legal, in the paper form for like since yesterday,
A day.
and you guys had all of these cards programmed in Talishar before that even happened, which was pretty
It was about a
cool.
week ago. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
when we first got them on. I think the game engine has gotten more and more mature as time goes on, and that helps a lot. There weren't too many really crazy mechanics in this set that we hadn't seen before, and so we were able to borrow a lot from other cards.
Mhm.
I think, obviously Assassin is brand new, so we had to do the contract mechanic, which actually didn't take that. I think it took me like two hours just to code out the whole contract mechanic, and then once that was done, it's just copy paste for pretty much all of the assassin cards. Um, the other big one that was really challenging was the mech, because we don't have any cards that are both weapon and equipment and items yet.
There, yeah,
So
yeah, that one's pretty nutty.
that one was very challenging, and honestly, it's still not perfect, but it's playable. So I feel like we can just take time to kind of improve it as time goes on. But yeah, so
Yeah,
it's a little
if
bit easier
mech
this time
gets
around.
competitive with that deck, you'll have to hit it hard.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this next between sets period. There's some other things that I want to do to make it even easier to add new cards in the future. I don't know if you use February, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So the guy that makes February, and then there's the Fab Cube guy, Loose Leaf P. They have like a data repository where they like hand enter all the stats for the cards as they get spoiled. And they were even faster than us for Dynasty. Like they were crazy fast how quickly they were able to get stuff in. So what I'd really like to do is be able to generate the card data for the game from the data that they enter, so that we don't have to do like
Okay.
double
Yeah.
entry, so to speak. So that's going to be one of my upcoming projects.
Cool. Cool. Well, thanks for hanging out, Nate. I'm excited for Dynasty. It's definitely gonna change the meta. Gonna be interesting for a while, but there's not a lot of competitive stuff coming up for organized play. I think in January is the next, like ProQuest 3.
We've got
So
the Dynasty Armory weekend tomorrow.
yep, everybody's trying to get those regicides, which look amazing. In my
Are we
opinion,
going to
that's
see?
the best card of the whole set with that lights out art
Oh,
and
and like
then
a.
the rainbow foiling on the text. It looks so
Mhm,
good.
it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, go win yourself one of those. I don't know if I'll I'll make it tomorrow, but we'll see.
We'll see. I was thinking about playing kind of a meme deck. I was gonna jank it up tomorrow. Just I don't know.
Of course, how could you not? That's
That's the inspiration that I'm feeling. So I think that's what we're. I need to see if I have all the cards first, though. That's the problem.
oh, there you go.
Um,
All right, you at home, thanks for hanging out. I mean, nobody watches this long. This is like a whole hour, but
if you've watched this long, throw a comment in the comments. Is that what people say? I don't.
what's the thing? You guys say smash that like button,
Oh no, no, we need to add a
subscribe.
password. You need to add a password for people that have watched this long so they can comment, and then everybody will know that they're super cool.
They're the coolest of the coolest. Yeah.
The
Just yeah.
password the password will be Sift Valda. If you've listened this long, put Sift Valda in the comments so we know.
No, no. Link us your favorite new brainstorm wizard deck that's gonna kill someone off of just drawing cards.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the Brainstorm Wizard deck.
Another time, another time. Throw your decks at Nate on Twitter if you can find any.
You're overloading my My
Yeah, I'm always like, let's just record a quick 20 minutes. I don't know if I got a lot of time today. And then it's like an hour.
2 hours later.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next
See
time.
you.